Walking through the cities of Manchester in 800 AD, what would you have seen? Mist over the moorlands. Welcome, wanderer, to the heart of 800 AD, where Manchester wasn't steel and stadiums, but smoky trails and tribal echoes. Lowland Moor, just outside early Manchester village perimeter. What if the Mancunian buzz, was once just the chirp of marsh birds and the clack of bone-tipped spears? Early morning mist rolling over muddy trails, with a distant wooden palisade barely visible through the fog. Before skyscrapers rose, the mist ruled Manchester. The air bites with chill as the dawn reveals huts of woven thatch, arranged like a spider's web around a communal hearth. Central, communal fire pit, where smoke rises through roofless wooden frameworks. Ever wonder what warmth meant before radiators? It came from shared breath and burning oak. Wide shot of a tribal village with conical thatched roofs. People gathering at a central fire, wrapped in woolen cloaks. Manchester's original heating system: oak logs and gossip. Each face that passes me is etched with a survival of winters past, their eyes scanning both the sky and the soil. Hilltop watch post, made of sharpened logs, overlooking moorland. Could you survive 1 hour in their shoes or, better yet, bare feet? Close-up of a guard on a wooden watchtower with hand-carved spear, scanning the misty terrain below. Your Uber ride? Just feet, fur, and frost. And in the early sun, smoke dances over the land, like spirits whispering through time. Edge of a frozen river, where villagers fetch water in carved wooden buckets. What did Manchester drink before Starbucks and tap water? Find out by the river bend. Spoiler your lat, didn't exist as did. Our journey begins not in a city, but a whisper of one. A memory being built by fire, toil, and will. How did a forest trail become a superhighway of civilization? A dirt path disappearing into thick forest, with faint footprints and a hanging charm of bone and string on a branch. Manchester's My60 once looked like this. The market of Mesopotamia. Step carefully now, see that? It's not chaos. That's the heartbeat of Mesopotam's market, where trade is louder than prayer. An open-air market square, set on packed dirt between timber-frame buildings and smoky cook fires. What did shopping look like 200 years before Amazon Prime? Bustling early medieval market scene, traders shouting, children playing, goods displayed in woven baskets, smoke rising from food stalls. Before online carts, there were wooden carts and louder salesmen. A woman swings a basket of root vegetables onto her hip, while a trader haggles over sheep wool like it's gold. Wool and textile stall with hand-dyed fabrics stretched on crude frames. Would your negotiation skills survive a world where coins didn't matter but potatoes did? Rough-dressed trader bartering bolts of cloth and wool in front of wooden frames hung with dyed linens. In 800 AD, fashion was handmade in thread at a time. The smell hits next: wild onions, smoked boar, fermented mead. Your senses would think you time. Traveled into a tavern, food stall with trenchers, flatbreads, stews bubbling in bronze pots, and open flame spits turning. What would your 9th century lunch tray look like? Spoiler, it involves a whole leg of something. Manchester's first taco thought, greasy and possibly still twitching. A horn sounds, not for war but for honey. Mead traders arrive with sticky smiles and stronger beverages. Wooden stand with horn mugs and clay jugs of honey mead, guarded by burly men in fur cloaks. Think your craft brewery is rustic? Try a mug that bites back. Before breweries, there were beehives, barrels, and brave livers. Through it all walks a bard strumming a lyre, singing of harvests and frost spirits, trading tales for supper. Performers' corner with wooden stools and an audience of barefoot children and wide-eyed villagers. Could your Spotify playlist compete with a man who sings history over dinner? Manchester's first influencer, armed with strings, not Wi-Fi. The warrior's barracks. Ah, the sharp scent of oiled leather and sweat, We've stepped into the bones of maimed Caesar's defense, the barracks, where warriors train like wolves, an open training ground near wooden stockade walls, ringed by target dummies and straw bales. Could you swing a sword before breakfast? Or would you just swing and faint? Before gyms, there were swords, sweat, and 0 reps in the survival. Young warriors spar, their grunts timed to each strike, while elders watch silently, chewing leather and weighing talent. Covered lean-to with aging warriors, sharpening axes and recounting past raids by torchlight. Want to know how to earn respect in 800 AD? Every wrinkle here tells a story most end with someone bleeding. Nearby, a young woman adjusts her armor ease. Women fought too. She tightens her helmet strap, eyes fixed on the dummy. Think battle was a man's game? Think again. Some shields were held by queens in training. She didn't wear crowns, she wore chainmail, and a glare sharp enough to cut steel. A horn blast sounds. Practice ends. The warriors kneel for a moment, not for prayer, but to honor the fallen they trained to avenge. Even fighters had altars. War wasn't just blood, it was a legacy. Steel breaks, blood spills, but memory stands sharp. And there, standing alone by the gate, is the captain one-eyed, armor burnished, voice like distant thunder. Meet the man who's seen more battles than birthdays, and still won't retire. One eye, 1,000 stories, and not one of them ends with surrender. The sacred grove and healer's hut. Now, step lightly, my friends. Beyond the warrior's edge lies a place not guarded by spears, but by silence, smoke, and spells. A shaded grove lined with ancient oak trees, soft moss beneath your feet, and hanging bundles of dried herbs swaying in the wind. Could a whisper and a wildflower save your life in 800 AD? Sacred grove surrounded by towering oaks with vines, woven charms, and herb bundles dangling from the branches. Morning mist rising, where swords paused and roots spoke welcome to the healer's sanctuary. Healer's hut with hand-carved charms, smoky air filled with the scent of sage, and clay jars lining shelves inside. Before hospitals, there was mud, magic, and mystery. Healing wasn't clean or clinical, it was wild, sacred, and rooted in Earth's memory. Inside, an elder woman crushes dried herbs with stone, her fingers stained green, eyes sharp as polished flint. Interior workspace of the healer with a stone mortar, bundles of dried comfrey and foxglove, and firelight casting flickers. What's in her bowl? A cure, a curse? An elderly healer in a cloak, stitched with vines, grinding herbs in a stone mortar under flickering firelight inside her hut. She speaks to roots, listens to wind, and mixes medicine stronger than steel. A man groans softly as cloth soaked in honey and thyme is wrapped around a gash on his leg. No screams here, just steady hands. Healing bed of woven grass and hide, surrounded by pouches of salves, bone tools, and dried petals. Ever had your wounds kissed by leaves and bees? No scalpels, just hands, heat, and ancient herbal wisdom. A baby's cry pierces the grovia. Mother, in labor, is encircled by chanting midwives, fanning sacred smoke and holding carved stones. Birthing space beside the grove with midwives kneeling in a ritual circle, chanting softly as the baby arrives. How was life welcomed into the world before sterile rooms? A circle of women surrounding a laboring mother, midwives chanting with sage smoke swirling under an open birthing canopy. Birth wasn't quieted with song, smoke, and the thunder of ancestors watching. The market lane and merchant square. Follow your nose, friends. The scent of roasted meat and baked bread swirls through the air like a mischievous spirit. We've arrived at the lifeblood of the city, the market. A bustling open-air market with muddy walkways, timber stalls covered in linen awnings, and smoke curling up from meat pits and bread ovens. What was shopping like before credit cards and checkouts? Where the coin clinked The bread cracked, and every handshake told a story. A whole boar spins on a spit over glowing coals. Nearby, cooks in rough wool tunics turn it with long forks, sweat glistening on their foreheads. Communal cooking pit with wooden benches and tables nearby. Men and women tending to pots and spits with practiced grace. What would a feast smell like in 800 AD Manchester? A fire pit roasting a boar, surrounded by cooks in woolen garb, ash flying, and sizzling meat casting golden smoke into the air. Before delivery apps, you walked into the smoke and prayed the meat was hot. A shared eating space at the center of the market, with food served on flat loaves and ale poured from clay jugs. What did lunch look like when forks hadn't been invented? Wooden tables covered with trenchers filled with meats and roots, people laughing and eating with hands, mugs of ale beside them. Hands did the dining and flavor did the talking. A fruit seller sings a tune while arranging baskets of dried berries, wild apples, and hazelnuts beneath a hide-covered stall. Fruit and nut vendor stall decorated with braided reeds, baskets brimming with foraged goods, and cheerful haggling all around. Would you buy berries with a tune and a grin? A cheerful vendor at a hide-covered stall with baskets of hazelnuts and apples, smiling at passing children beneath a bright sky. A song, a smile, a scoop of sweetness, your ancient snack aisle awaits. Children dart between stalls while women in aprons pound grain in stone mortars, dust rising in clouds as they laugh and chatter. Grinding station near the end of the market, with mortar stations, large sacks of grain, and drying racks for bread. How did flour rise from dust in the heart of Manchester? Women pounding grain into flour in wide stone mortars while barefoot children run between them, sunlight cutting through dust clouds. Before bakeries, there was rhythm, stone, and sunrise laughter. The River Watch and Fisher's Hollow. Now follow the earthy path downhill, where the River Irwell snakes through the landscape like a silver ribbon. Its gentle splash carries the songs of fishermen and river guardians. Banks of the River Irwell grassy, rock-lined, and dotted with handmade wicker fishing traps and bark canoes. How did a river feed an entire city in the age of axes and oars? A serene riverside with early medieval fishers in wool tunics hauling wicker traps, bare feet in the mud, morning mist rising from the water. Where the river sang, the net's filled life flowed in more ways than one. A fisherman crouches near a hand-woven net, carefully plucking out wriggling river perch. His daughter laughs nearby, chasing frogs along the shallows. Shallow river inlet, near a bend, used as a communal fishing and water collection area, surrounded by reeds and mossy rocks. Could you feed your family with nothing but your hands, a net, and patience? A father and daughter fishing sent a net full of perch, frogs hopping by, and the child's reflection shimmering on the river's surface. Catch of the day wasn't a choice, it was survival dressed in silver scales. Several bark canoes carved from hollowed tree trunks drift gently downriver, steered with wide paddles. River traders carry salted fish and woven goods to neighboring villages. A trade route on water canoes gliding past small landing docks where townsfolk shout greetings and prepare goods. Ever traveled without roads, wheels, or maps? Bark canoes gliding on a sparkling river, filled with baskets of fish, wool, and pottery, guided by strong arms and sharper instincts. Water was the road, the oar was your wheel, and your senses were the map. Near a bend in the river, a group of women wash tunics against the rocks, singing harmonies that echo through the trees. Sudsy water flows like milk into the current. The washers grow via a shaded section of the river, used for communal laundry and storytelling. What did laundry day mean when rivers were your only rinse cycle? Women in linen garments, washing clothes against smooth river rocks, giggling and splashing as fabric flutters in the breeze. Clean clothes, old tales, and a river that knew every secret. A resting nook along the river's edge, surrounded by overhanging willows and flat boulders warmed by the sun. Would you pause your day to sip nature's remedy beneath a willow? I would be seated with feet in river water, receiving birch bark tea from a smiling fisherwoman beneath arching willow trees. In the hush of the river, even time seemed to take a breath. The blacksmith's forge and artisan lane, the air grows thick with the scent of molten iron and burning coal. Echoes of hammers ring out like steady heartbeats. You've entered the artisan's realm, where fire breathes life into metal. Central blacksmith yard surrounded by wood and wattle workshops, anvils, clay furnaces, and stacks of ore. What did craftsmanship look like before machines, when everything was made by hand and sweat? A bearded blacksmith in a woolen apron, striking hot iron on an anvil, sparks flying in a smoky forge with tools hanging overhead. Every clang forged more than metal, it forged legacy. A one-eyed artisan skillfully chisels intricate knotwork into a bronze brooch, his missing eye hidden beneath a stitched leather patch, but his fingers move like poetry. A shaded alcove beside the main forge, where delicate metalwork and jewelry are crafted on wooden benches. Could you turn raw metal into treasure blind in one eye, but sharper than steel? Close-up of a weathered artisan with one eye, carving knotwork on a brooch under the dappled light of an open canopy. With half his sight gone, his vision became twice as clear. Beside the metalworkers, a leatherworker dyes and cuts rawhide into intricate belts, knife sheaths, and sandals, humming an old song passed down from her mother. Artisan leaning a cluster of open stalls, with leather, bone, and horn goods laid out on thick animal hides. What could you craft from hide, horn, and heritage? Woman dyeing leather strips in an earthenware basin, sunlight catching the vibrant red and ochre hues as she dries them on a wooden frame. From hide came heritage stitched into every loop and lace. Young apprentices, covered in soot, rush about fetching tools, stoking flames, and holding metal steady for the masters. One stops to nod, eyes wide with pride. Apprentice training area, a half-roofed work zone where boys and girls learn under the watchful eyes of elder smiths. What did your first job look like when fire and failure taught faster than school? Sweaty apprentices with smudged faces holding tongs and bellows, sparks flying as they learned beside seasoned smiths. Before classrooms, there was heat, hammer, and humble beginnings. We step into a potter's stall where clay spins on a wheel, transforming into elegant, functional art. The potter grins, offering him a freshly fired goblet. Clay artisan's stall, adorned with shelves of glazed cups, pots, and amphorae, smelling of earth and ash. Could you shape beauty from mudand, make it last 1,000 years? Potter's hands shaping clay on a spinning wheel as you watch, steam rising from freshly glazed jugs in the background. In the lump of earth, the future took form on spin at a time, the woodland path and sacred grove. As we leave the smoky buzz of the artisan quarter, a cool hush falls over the trail ahead. Trees arch like cathedral spires, their leaves whispering ancient secrets. You're walking into a realm where nature still rules. A narrow forest path just outside the main village, flanked by ancient oaks and lined with moss-covered stones. What if your quiet walk through the woods was also a passage through sacred memory? A winding woodland trail under towering oaks, beams of sunlight filtering through mist and moss-covered stones guiding the path. Every step echoed centuries of footsteps, each leaf a memory. To the right, a stone circle emerges through the foliage, half hidden, yet heavy with presence. This was where the villagers whispered to the gods and buried their oldest tales. Ancient ritual circle, with lichen-crusted standing stones arranged in a wide ring, their surfaces etched with faint carvings. Could the stones still hear you? Or were they only waiting for your story? A wide stone circle, partially covered in moss and ferns, with carved spirals barely visible in the aged surfaces. In stillness, they stood not silent, but listening. You would come across shaman in cloak made of raven feathers and stitched bark as she walked barefoot over leaves. She places an offering of berries at the base of a sacred tree, a massive yew tree at the grove's heart, its limbs gnarled and its roots exposed like reaching fingers. What power lived in the roots of trees before temples were built? She fed the old gods, not with words, but with memory and fruit. Children giggle as they tie cloth ribbons to lower branches prayers to protect the harvest or heal a parent. Their laughter blends with birdsong in a language older than speech. The wishing tree, younger ash near the grove, its limbs filled with fluttering cloth, bones, and tokens from village children. Could a tree keep your secrets safer, carry it to the wind? A tree adorned with colorful ribbons and wooden tokens swaying in the breeze as children skip nearby, watched by their parents from afar. In every knot, a whispered hope leaf, bound and skyward. The water is icy clear. A stone basin rests beneath a tiny waterfall, once used for blessing warriors and newborns alike. Sacred spring beside the grove, its flow steady and cold, surrounded by ferns and worn rocks carved with runes. What stories does water remember when it's been blessing souls for generations? Crystal clear stream, cascading over flat stones into a hollowed basin, with you reaching into the water surrounded by mist and silence. Blessings ran deeper than the stream they shaped who you became. Nightfall and fireside tales. As the sun dips low behind the hills, Manchester transforms. The village slows, shadows lengthen, and firelight becomes the heartbeat of the night. This is when stories are born. The central fire pit surrounded by long benches and timber homes, glowing embers casting flickering shadows across villagers' faces. What would you whisper to the fire if you knew the flames could remember? A large bonfire at the village center, surrounded by families huddled on benches, shadows dancing on nearby wattle and daub homes. When night fell, the fire didn't just warm bodies, it sparked legends. A storyteller with a single ivory bead in his beard rises. His voice is gravel and thunder. Children press closer. Even the chickens fall silent. He speaks of giants in the moors and beasts that slept beneath the earth. The village commons, just beyond the fire pit, flattened grass from gatherings, with logs used as seats. What if every myth you knew was a garbled memory of something real? A bearded storyteller gesturing wildly by firelight. Children leaning forward, wide-eyed, as sparks rise behind him. He didn't just tell tales, she awakened memories older than the stones. Women pass oat cakes and warm elderberry cordial. The scent is sweet and earthy. Even you can't resist a second helping. A dog naps nearby, tail thumping with contentment. A communal eating area near the fire, with clay platters resting on low tables and woven baskets of warm bread. Would you savor the night if you knew each meal was a gift from the earth and sky? Villagers sharing oatcakes and steaming cups around the fire. You holding a warm cup, smiling beside a napping dog. Beneath the stars, the simplest flavors became sacred. A bard strums a lyre made from stag antler and sinew. Its melody is haunting, catching the sigh of the wind, the creak of trees, and hearts too full to speak. An elevated wooden platform near the commons where musicians often sit to play during celebrations. What if the music of your ancestors still echoes through your bones? A bard lit by firelight, strumming a rustic lyre, his eyes closed as villagers swayed gently with the rhythm. His strings played more than notes, they carried generations. You stand, raising your cup in toast, to those before us and those yet to come. The villagers cheer, a wave of warmth and laughter rolling like thunder through the night. The village fire circle, at the peak of celebration, with everyone gathered in radiant community under the stars. If you stood among them, would you toast to the past or the future? You would raise a horn cup in a crowd of cheering villagers, fire blazing high behind them beneath a star-studded sky. In that moment, time blurred and every soul belonged. Farewell and reflections at dawn. The fire has burned low. Smoke curls toward the dawn sky as roosters crow and the first light creeps over the stone homes of Manchester. A new day has arrived, but it carries the weight of ancient footsteps. Village outskirts at sunrise, where mist drifts over dewy grass and thatched roofs catch the golden glow of morning. What would it feel like to wake in a world untouched by time? When the old world stirs at sunrise, you feel history breathe. Children rub their eyes, fetching water from the stream. Farmers yawn and stretch, readying tools once more. The pulse of life never truly stops here, it only pauses to dream. Streamside path just outside the village, where buckets clank and the ground is soft with dew. What if every day began not with haste but with reverence? Even chores glimmered with magic beneath the morning mist. You walk slowly now, boots brushing against old paths once trod by people who shaped a future they could never see. You pause, placing a hand on a rough stone marker etched with time, but not forgotten. You see ancient footpath leading from the village toward the moors, lined with standing stones and wildflowers. Would you walk the same paths if you knew each stone told a story? You stand quietly beside a moss-covered stone marker as sunrise bathes the landscape in golden light. Every journey begins with a step and a whisper from the past, as a young villager passes you, offering you a woven trinket, a charm against wandering spirits. You smile, tying it to his satchel. It's a goodbye and a blessing. Village edge, beneath an ancient oak tree, where charms and offerings hang, swaying gently in the breeze. What parting gift would you offer a traveler crossing centuries? As a young villager, handing you a small woven charm beneath a large oak tree adorned with ribbons and bones. Even in farewell, the heart of the village beats strong. As you take your final steps away from 800 AD Manchester, he turns once more. The village fades into morning fog, but its echoes will linger in every footfall, every whispered tale, every stone beneath our cities. The sloping hillside looking down upon the village, the landscape stretching toward the future. Could you leave a place behind if you knew it would live on inside you? You looking back one last time from a misty hillside as the village disappears into golden fog below. Time moves on, but those who listen still hear the whispers of 800 AD. And so, dear traveler, we leave behind the quiet heartbeat of ancient Manchester. But perhaps, just perhaps, it hasn't left us until the next walk through time. Farewell.